I hope you're all well. I hope you're all thriving, even under the current situation we see happening nationally. I am here to speak a banner of hope for the future and future generations over your life. And so, I hope that you're taking those moments to pause, to turn everything off, and to just pray, meditate, whatever that may be, so that you will be well, to be able to live tomorrow and see a little bit of hope for the future. And so today we have a special guest, and her name is Fatima Adame. Hi, Fatima. Hello.
Hi, hope you can hear me.
I can hear you. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me on, Miss Christina.
Anytime. Like, I always appreciate my friends and family in the fight and the battle for quality education. And so tell everyone that's watching who you are and what you do.
Yeah, my name is Fatima Christina Adame, and I am, I don't know my title anymore, but I work for the California Charter Schools Association, and my area predominantly is in Southern California. So I help charter schools start and stay operational in the areas of the Inland Empire, predominantly San Bernardino, Riverside County. And I do get around to Orange County and San Diego, but my specialty is in the Inland Empire, and helping parents in charter schools, helping charter school leaders, helping elected officials learn about charter schools, providing that option for families that they don't typically know about this third type of education, which is, again, charter schools. Free, public, open for all, and people don't know that.
Right. And so that has been, there has been a lot of misunderstanding when I talk to parents, right, about what is charter school and how is that free and public, and so we've had these conversations and we'll continue to have them, but before we even start to really talk about what you do work-wise, share with us what is your passion, like what brought you to this place?
Oh my gosh, this is a 30-minute show, but I'll keep it brief. I am an immigrant to this country, born and raised in Zacatecas, Mexico. And, the biggest reason why my parents brought my siblings and I here was for an opportunity at a better type of life and an education. So education is really important for my parents. And so that's what brought me to education, because my parents have always, said, they didn't, kind of leave their own country and everything they knew behind for us not to make a better life for ourselves. And my parents really believe education is the reason and the way to get to that place. So I'm very appreciative for that. And then, for the most part, what brought me to charter schools is understanding this opportunity that a lot of Latino families, especially, again, because I'm Mexican and I run in the Latino community, I understand how many of them don't understand this third option, because in most Latin American countries, first of all, the word charter school doesn't translate. And second of all, there is not this third form of education in most Latin American countries. So there's private and then there's public education. So it really is, that's why I really wanted to bring this to the community. And how I got involved with charter schools really is trying to understand them in my own family. I come from, like I said, an immigrant family of 3 kids. My parents were usually working 2 jobs, and I was helping raise my siblings. But my brother is deaf and blind, partially deaf and blind in both ears and both eyes. And nobody noticed until he was a teenager. And by that time, right, he was already pegged as the difficult child. And
right.
So, he was suspended, he was expelled, and my parents had no option for him. It was public school or nothing, because we certainly couldn't afford private school. And so unfortunately, the education system wasn't able to help him in the same way that it did my sister and I. And inequality in education and the way people are treated is really important to me. And so coming across charter schools helped me want to understand this third form of education and help our communities understand this third form of education.
Right. And so I know that your parents probably, had some suspicions, trusted that, that the school was going to be there to help and educate. Unfortunately, the story that most of us share is that that's not what ends up happening. And then being left without any options, is more tragic, right? And so I so support the work that you do in the California Charter Schools Association, all the work that you guys have done to make sure that there are quality options available, quality public education options available. And, tell people what it looked like during the time when we first got the school, the school closures and the shelter in place. What were you guys doing on the ground over there in San Bernardino?
Oh my gosh, I'm getting chills just thinking about it, right? Because I think everybody was really scared, and
Right.
nobody had answers. But I cannot tell you how proud I am of our charter schools, because most of them were able to just flip on a dime, and the way that they reacted in this very difficult time was really impressive. And I think, again, I will acknowledge by sheer size alone for some of our schools, because they are so much smaller than traditional districts, and there's less bureaucracy and red tape, and there's just, a lot less layers. They were able to pivot so quickly. And so, I'll give you an example. I did have charter schools in Southern California that the closures were announced on Friday, I believe it was March 13th. And by Monday, they had something up for their families. And that is amazing, considering we heard of schools not having anything for families for almost a month. And so to watch them, and again, charter schools be able to pivot. And again, I'm not saying that what they had on that Monday was perfect and it was everything that they wanted it to be. So I don't want that to get misconstrued, but they knew that kids needed something for comfort. And so often schools are a place for our students to feel some comfort from the chaos that's happening. And so to be able to deliver something to families on that following Monday was really amazing to witness. And subsequently, continuing to provide food for families and with food insecurities, and continuing to provide education, whether it was online or through packets, or be able to drive by the school and pick up a tangible book or packet that their students could take home. It was so important for families and students to feel a little bit of that normalcy. And so I'm really proud of how many charter schools were able to just pivot and meet the needs of students in a time when it is so scary. That's the only way to describe it. It's very scary and uneasy.
And I have to agree with you. My children are a part of Springs Charter School. Shout out to Springs Nation. I always got to give my plug. I love everything that they do. So responsive, so caring and compassionate. My children are in the homeschool program. And I will tell you, just looking through the emails after everything was announced, they didn't miss a beat, okay? And still to this day, I am always getting those, messages or calls. Do you have everything you need? Are you good? Is there anything we can provide? Even from teachers. Whereas I have friends that their students didn't get access to technology, didn't get access to food, just like didn't know where to go, right? To get the grab and go meals. For months. So that month was a conservative estimate that you gave. But I know that happened. And so I'm so grateful for the flexibility and just the responsiveness of what even my personal family's charter school provided again. And, just talking about that struggle that we experience as parents, trying to sort it all out, trying to figure out what's best, and trying to make sure our children are okay, right? Sometimes that can be overwhelming, but parents, I am telling you that it is important, you as the child's primary educators, that you continue to push for what is right, for your children to learn and thrive, for them to have what they need. You do not want them to be in a situation or a place where you find out years later, oh, this was the problem they experienced and nobody serviced them. They were ill-served, right? or this was what I had a suspicion, but someone tried to tell me no, it was something else. You are the parent, you know your child best, and so continue to speak up and question and ask for what you need for your child.
Yeah, and I think so oftentimes even parents, right, we and devalue our worth, because I mean, I'll use the example of my own two parents, right? My mother has an elementary school education, my father has a high school education, and you know, while they would both tell you, you know, we don't know how to help you navigate college in this country, we don't know, we're not going to stop you from finding the people and getting the support you need to get you to where you want to be. And so as parents, you don't have to you don't have to know it. You don't have to be a university professor to value education and to motivate your kids to do better. And so sometimes we think there's no way that we can teach kids at home. And I think if anything, this pandemic has taught us that exactly what you said, is that we are the primary teachers of our kids at home. And you know, all the technology, all the books, all the education, they're at your fingertips. You just have to want to access them. And you know, while again, you know, a teacher will never replace a parent, and a parent will never replace a teacher. There's value for both. I think parents, we oftentimes do not allow ourselves to believe that we can, in fact, teach our children. And this pandemic has taught us that maybe we don't teach them like teachers, but we teach them like parents, and that is just as valuable. And I mean, I will give a quick shout out to Springs, you know, although not a plug, but, you know, one of the ways that they were able to meet the needs of not just their students, but students all over the world is they had an open classroom because they've been doing distance learning for over 10 years, I think 15 years. They might even be on their 20th year, but they opened their digital classroom to anyone in the world, and over 10 countries access that. And so again, the information, the technology, everything is there. We definitely want to, or need to be able to access it. And, you know, availability and access is a whole nother topic we can get into. But I'm so glad that so many parents are meeting that challenge of educating their kids at home.
Right. And so, you know, right now we're faced with a lot of challenges, social justice challenges, and education is a branch of that social justice activism that we do. But we still got to continue to fight for our children to have quality education, right? And so what has been your, you know, biggest thought, I guess, for your biggest challenge of what that's going to look like coming post-COVID?
That's a really interesting question, and I wish I had better answers. I know for our schools, the majority that we've talked to, if not all of them, and I say, you know, the majority because I haven't talked to every charter school leader in my area, but we know that they are surveying students and families, right? What do they want to see? Because while it's easy to make some policies and say, this is what's going to happen, we also know that parents are important because they also feel some kind of way about what's going to happen in the fall. And so our schools also have to, again, the beauty about charter schools is we adapt to their needs. And so if in-person classrooms is what you need right now, then how do we meet your needs? And so we are surveying our families to assess how many of them feel comfortable coming back in the fall within classroom learning, how many of them feel comfortable using the technology and teaching classes or helping students navigate classes, you know, via home and distance learning access. So we are trying to figure out what that looks like right now. And it's, you know, again, the beauty of our charter schools is that no two are alike. So every charter school is really adapting to the needs of their community and assessing what they need. So some of them will be fully distance learning for next year, while others may have a combination of distance learning and in-classroom education. And what in-classroom education is going to look like will also be different for those schools whose communities need them to be in the classrooms, in the physical classrooms.
You know, and I know that there's no real solid answers yet, because as everything unravels, we're still, you know, trying to reimagine this whole thing, right? And, you know, I so appreciate the charter schools that have just really done innovative, creative, just accommodating and responsive work and best practices for educating our children. And, really, I think of this moment, though, in history as an opportunity to reimagine the way that education is going to look for all students, because we're fighting for the quality of education for all children, especially those that have been ill-served, underserved, just shut out, all kinds of things. And we know that they look like me and you, right, Fatima? They look like us. And so we can't deny that. But there's an opportunity to shift that, right? I am, though, however, a little leery about, traditional models, not really wanting to be flexible, not really wanting to say, this is what it is, just sticking to their guns on what they want to do. And so, parents, we heard from you guys. Thank you for allowing us to take a poll nationally, get the results, and now we have formed that Family Bill of Rights that I continue to talk about. And so you want to check that out. And these were from the parents, what they want to see, what you all want to see, what we all want to see in order to allow our children to go back into the schools. And so take a look at that, if you get
Thank you, I will. And I know I thought I saw another one you had, but I didn't know that you guys had a new one on what parents want to see in schools coming back. That's really interesting, and I would love to distribute that to our charter school leaders here so that they also understand, because yes, they are polling their parents locally, but I think nationally to hear what families want to do is also interesting. And again, I'm a full disclosure, I'm a child of the traditional educational model, and it did well for me. And look, I like to think I turned out half a decent human being, so I'm very proud of my public education upbringing in the traditional model. But there's just so many layers that prevent them from being able to provide individualized learning, and that's a challenge. But I also understand that they're looking out for I hope that they're looking out for the greater good. And there are so many families who, no matter how many polls you take, are not going to be able to answer them. And we have to take them into consideration as well. And again, I think it was you who said, there was a school who sent out a technology survey, but, not knowing that everybody doesn't have access to technology, right? So the irony in that is that, we don't know what we don't know. And sometimes even when we know it, it's difficult to address it because the problem is so much bigger than us, right? So I do hope that the traditional model of education understands that their parents are demanding some flexibility, and they are demanding some safety for their students. And I know because I have them as friends and colleagues, well-intentioned educators who are running our traditional public schools, and I know that they're going to want to meet the needs of kids. And so I just hope that their system allows them to be able to do that for all kids.
Right. And, the traditional model, I am also a child of the traditional model, but it hasn't been really reimagined in hundreds of years. And so it is a prime time and opportunity to say, hey, we have all of this technology, we have all of this access, plus we don't even know what the economy and what things are going to look like as far as businesses, if people are going to be working more remotely now, because maybe some businesses did an assessment and said, hey, actually, this is more cost effective for us to allow you to work from home, right? I know the service industry probably can't do that, but there are some parents that work in fields where their companies might have desired now for them to continue to work remotely or do a hybrid. How about you come in twice a week and you work from home? And so reimagining that, what school is going to look like is also looking at the whole family structure. Oftentimes, we talk about the whole child approach, but we got to look at the needs of the child that is in the family, right? The family that is going to support them during their educational journey. And I think that has to be included. Mm-hmm.
I agree. And I think any level of education, private, public, charter, traditional, not that, all of them need to be able to have those thoughts in mind first for all students, because I was extremely surprised to hear for some school districts that they didn't even understand how far internet service, went in their town, and the level or lack of connectivity that students had access or lack of access to until this happened. And so that was a little alarming to hear some school districts and board meetings have this conversation about, we didn't know that students on this side of town or that side of town didn't have access to internet or quality internet, right? And so to hear that those are the conversations we're having in 2020 was a little scary, because I'm like, we don't even understand our own cities and our own towns. So how is it that we are meeting the needs of our students if we don't even know where we live?
And you know, my sister, at board meetings, those two words that trigger me.
Yes, I'm sorry.
It's okay. You know, I get this feeling every time I hear the word board coupled with meetings. And so it shouldn't be that way, though, parents. You know, really, the transparency, our involvement should be welcome, you know, but we often find that it hasn't been. And so I've been trying to think of a code name for board meetings. So I won't get triggered, but we'll talk about that a whole nother day. But, you know, I got to say this. Parents, you don't have to be an expert to be able to say, you know what, I see a need and I'm going to fill it. Here comes a board seat coming up, and I'm going to run for it, right? I know what my community needs. I am a voice for that, the needs of our local children and what's happening. And I want to admonish you to consider that, because anyone is able to use their voice and their actions in a powerful way that helps build up their community and helps to ensure that children's needs are being met, right? And so I just had to get that message out there. Fatima, if you could just leave the parents with a thought or something that you like to share, especially during this time.
Well, I'm so glad you brought it up at the end, but I cannot emphasize this enough to parents. Magic human beings don't run our cities, don't run our education system, don't run our country. People like you and I do. And so as a parent, you are your voice is just as valuable, if not more, on these elected official boards, on the school boards, on the county offices of education, on the city councils, they need your voice. So don't think just because I'm a parent or I'm not educated, I don't have degrees, I don't, that does not mean you do not know what is best for your child and other children. And so we need your voice so much on these boards that make decisions for our kids that are so far reaching. And I used to teach this workshop on political science and voting and things, and I used to tell people it is so much more important for you to know who you're electing for school board than it is for you to vote for president of the United States.
Yes.
I'm not saying they're not important, but the people on your education, your local educational boards make so many decisions about what is happening to your child that impact your everyday life, that you should know exactly who sits on your school board, who sits on your county board of education. You should know them. And now with this access to technology and the fact that so many boards are meeting online, parents should take a few moments, if they have them, to join these board meetings online and see what those elected officials are saying about the way education is going to be delivered for your kids in the fall. I encourage you to join both traditional school board meetings and charter school board meetings to see how these decisions are made. So technology has allowed us for that, and those parents who have access to it and they should at least join one board meeting and see how it happens and realize that you too have the power to make those decisions by running for those boards. So I encourage every parent to be an active participant, not just in the education and learning of your child, but in how those decisions are being made for you as a parent and for your student.
Right, and parents, I agree, and that's a good word, Fatima, thank you. Shout out to San Bernardino. I hope you're all, staying safe. Praying, my prayers are and thoughts. Thank you for your support and just advocacy, Southern California throughout. And so I'm sure we'll see each other again soon when they open up.
We will.
Sacramento. I just have a feeling that board meeting, it triggered that thought. And so, but parents, I do want to say, reach out to your local county and your local districts and whatever boards you would like to know. And if you don't have the internet access, ask them is there a way to call in, right?
Yes.
Can I call in? Because Zoom, you can call in and you don't have to be on with your camera and things like that. I know that I've been talking to people lately that aren't really comfortable utilizing the video, things and chats and Zoom, but you can call in and listen. And if you have presented questions that have not been answered, make sure that you email and follow up, right? Hi, I was listening or video attending this board meeting, and I have these following questions that were not answered, and I would like to know if you guys can put them on the agenda for a resolution to answer them, or whatever that may look like. Make sure that you just, make sure your voice is there and that you're heard. And however that has to be. I am aware that some people don't have access to internet, right? And then there's also places that are bad and the connection's bad and whatever else maybe don't want to be on video chat, maybe just, whatever that may be, can't access Zoom from the only device they may have is a phone or the kid's borrowed computer. And so I admonish you to grab a number. Ask them if you can, attend the board meeting via phone, and will you be allowed public comment? Ask those hard questions, and make sure that you follow up to get them answered. And so,
and as Spanish-speaking parents, just really quick, don't be afraid to speak in your native tongue, and let the boards know in your voice, whether it's Spanish or Tagalog or any other language. Do not be afraid to speak up in your language that you feel comfortable to those boards. They have to listen to you no matter what language you speak.
Yes, and ask them to follow up with the materials in your language, okay?
Yes.
It is okay if you ask for printed materials, whatever, in your native language. Please do that, right? You need to be aware, and there needs to be some transparency. If they don't provide you with that information in your native language, that's a discriminatory practice, and we can talk about that a whole another day. But yes, definitely. Thank you so much, Fatima, for coming on. Just stay safe. I hope you guys just survive. And I will see you again soon.
Thank you, Miss Christina.
Managing Day-to-Day with me, Christina Laughter, and National Parents Union. I hope you're all well. Stay safe. I want you all to thrive. Goodbye, America's beautiful children. We love you. We'll see you guys.